Okay, so I'm gonna predict Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at this event in a singles match. I think there's a lot of different directions that WWE could go that are interesting for both Roman and Punk. To me, Roman versus Punk seems like the most likely as of now. I say that because they're facing off at WrestleMania 41 in a triple threat match, and to me that tells me that WWE wants to save the singles match between Roman and Punk for a future big event. And to me, that makes a ton of sense. They're both two of the biggest names in the company. I think that's something that they can definitely explore more than we didn't get into in the build in WrestleMania 41. So I think they can kind of go into more of the Paul Heyman stuff. I think they can do how much different they are in terms of Roman can say that, or Punk can say that Reigns was given everything, and they can kind of go back and forth about that. And I think there's a lot more of an interesting story to tell. So yeah, I think as of now, I'm going with Roman versus Punk. I think they can stretch it out over the next several months and then leading to the eventual match at WrestleMania. I think there's an off chance that this could also happen at SummerSlam, and that wouldn't be a huge surprise, but my current guess is WrestleMania 42. And I think I've seen fans fantasy book different matches for both guys. I've seen The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and I've seen CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes come up probably the most. And I'm not going to disagree with anyone who thinks that. I would love to see both those matches. I'm just not convinced that The Rock is going to be wrestling, and I'd have to kind of believe it when I see it type thing, just because there's been rumors for so many years. So I'm going with Punk versus Roman at this event, and I think it would make a lot of sense, and I think it would be really good. Okay, so my next prediction is Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 42 for one of the women's titles. I think that the same logic applies to what I just said about Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. I think they're both involved in a triple threat match at WrestleMania 41, and that tells me that WWE is saving the Bianca versus Rhea singles match for the future. And to me, Rhea versus Bianca feels WrestleMania worthy, just based on both their talents. They're two of the biggest women stars in the company, and I think the match would be really good. And I think it's a no-brainer that it's an eventual kind of pay-per-view huge match that they do, huge singles match. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to kind of extend this feud out over the next several months to the year, and then it's going to lead to Bianca versus Rhea at WrestleMania 42. Again, like what I said about Roman and Punk, there's an off chance they do this at SummerSlam, but to me, it's WrestleMania worthy, so I think it makes sense to kind of stretch this out and have them face off, and I think it could be really good. And I don't think fans are going to complain about that. So Rhea versus Bianca is my pick for one of the women's titles at WrestleMania 42. Okay, so my next prediction for WrestleMania 42 is going to be Seth Rollins versus Gunther. In early 2025, there was actually a rumor that Gunther versus Seth could happen at WrestleMania 41. That didn't end up happening, but it's kind of intrigued me as in is kind of had me thinking about this is a match that should happen at a big pay-per-view event like WrestleMania. I think Seth and Gunther are two of the best guys in the company. They're very talented, and I could see them having a strong feud and eventual match. I think they could easily have one of the world titles involved, depending on kind of where both guys are at. I think the storyline would be good. They keep Gunther as a heel. They kind of flip Rollins into being a pure babyface or kind of the tweener type character. Doesn't matter. Either way, I think Seth versus Gunther would be a really good match, and I think it would be a really strong one that they can build towards. So that's kind of my early pick, especially based on those WrestleMania 41 rumors. And I think that at least tells me that there could be some smoke, and that's something that WWE is considering for the future. So Gunther versus Rollins is my pick, and I think that'd be really good. So my next prediction is going to be Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 42. I think that if you look at the trajectory of Jade, I think WWE is slowly pushing her up and up the card. And by this time, WrestleMania 42, I see her fighting for one of the world titles, if not already the women's champion by now. So yeah, I think she's going to be involved in in the top women's match or one of the top women's matches at this event. So if you look at her opponent, I think it makes sense to pair her up with a trusted veteran like a Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte's put on great matches with basically the entire WWE women's division. Everyone in the company she seems to put on good matches with, and I think she would be trusted to put on a great match on a big stage with Jade. So I think this is going to be something that makes sense. Off chance that it could be something like Jade versus Becky Lynch, I think that would make a ton of sense as well. It'll kind of depend on where both are, but yeah, my current pick is going to be Jade versus Charlotte at WrestleMania 42 for one of the women's titles, and I think it could be really good. All right, so my last prediction here for WrestleMania 42 is going to be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. I think there's a lot of great matches. I think for Cody Rhodes, and I think like I said before, I've seen CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes get brought up a lot, but I think they're going to end up doing Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. I think makes a ton of sense with their story and their kind of the legacy faction and their history and everything like that. To me, that screams a long-term feud that WWE can kind of build towards, and they can kind of tell that story for several months, likely with Orton turning heel and kind of a mentor versus protege type thing, or master versus protege type thing. I think that is going to be entertaining. I don't think it's going to be. I think Punk versus Rhodes would probably be better, but I just think this is a big storyline that WWE is going to do, and it could be maybe it could even be Randy Orton's last match, and it would make sense for somebody like Rhodes to retire him. So yeah, that's my current pick. I think the storyline's good enough that the world title does not need to be involved. It could be Rhodes could still be the champion by this time, or he could not be, but I don't think it has to, just based on how strong the storyline is. So yeah, I'm going with Cody versus Randy, and I think that could be a lot of fun. I think fans will like that feud. There's an off chance again that they do it at an event like SummerSlam, but I think it's going to happen at WrestleMania, and that's kind of my pick.